Hello friends, welcome to a new episode of Drishti IAS editorial analysis. In this editorial analysis, we do three things. First of all, we link the editorial to the UPSC syllabus. Secondly, we try to understand the key points of the editorial. And thirdly, if any key concepts have come in the editorial and are important from exam point of view, we also discuss that. So let us begin today's editorial analysis. We have taken today's editorial from the Indian Express and it has come on 13th of June. The title of the editorial is Much in a Rename. It says that Tamil Nadu's matter-of-fact changing of names to reflect local roots and linguistic heritage speaks of a distance traveled. So this editorial basically deals with the name change and the spelling change of a number of places in Tamil Nadu. And the basic idea behind this change has been that the name should reflect or their spelling should reflect the Tamil pronunciations. So now let us look at its linkage with the syllabus. So we see that it directly links with GS paper 1 and also with GS paper 2. In GS paper 1, it links with the post-independence consolidation and reorganization within the country. And also it links with regionalism. Whereas in GS paper 2, it links with governance and constitution. Because if the name of a state is changed, then a constitutional amendment act is needed. And here it links with the functions and responsibilities of the union and the states. Because the name change in a state are approved by the state government after the approval of central government is taken. So after establishing this linkage with the syllabus, now let us look at the key points of the editorial. So before moving on to the key points of the editorial, let us look at Tamil Nadu in a map. So here we have a map of India and we can see that Tamil Nadu is located here. And in this political map of Tamil Nadu, we can see the different districts of Tamil Nadu and we can also see Sri Lanka. And two important water bodies which we should know from exam point of view are Gulf of Mannar and Park Bay, and these are separated by a strait which is known as Park Strait. And you should be also knowing about strait, which is a geographical water body which connects two bigger water bodies. So it's a narrow water body which connects two bigger water bodies. So now let us look at how a place is renamed. So there is a process for that. And if we are talking about renaming of a street, then the civic authority is responsible for that, and the civic authority can be a Jila Parishad or a Panchayat which has the power to rename a street. And if we talk about renaming a city, then the state government or the state cabinet has to take that decision and it needs to send that proposal to the Ministry of Home Affairs, which consults with ministries such as Railways, Department of Posts, because these two ministries are the major stakeholders in any name change as they are most affected by such change of name. So once their consent is there, then the Ministry of Home Affairs tells the state government that we are okay with the name change, and then the state government can notify the name change of the place in its gazette notification, and that is how the city's name would be changed. If it is about renaming of a state, then the state legislative assembly needs to pass a resolution and it is again sent to the center, where the union cabinet can either accept or reject the proposal, and if it accepts, then a constitution amendment bill needs to be moved in the parliament because it requires amending the schedule 1 of the constitution for any change of name of a state. And here we should be knowing this, that in July 2019 the West Bengal Legislative Assembly, it passed a resolution to change the state's name to Bangla. Now let us look at whether the name change phenomenon is of recent origin or it has a long history. So there has been waves of renaming in India. So the first wave of renaming, it started just after independence, and many cities, streets, provinces, etc. were renamed. And two important examples here are that Rajpath, which is commonly known, was earlier Kingsway, and Janpath, both are in Delhi, it was earlier Queensway. So these have been renamed. But several colonial names survived until the 1990s. Also in 1956, the States Reorganization Commission, it led to creation of linguistic states, including renaming of existing ones through the 7th Constitutional Amendment Act. This is very important from prelims point of view. Both this 1956 States Reorganization Commission and the 7th Constitutional Amendment Act. So through this, Kerala was formed as a new state, and it was formed after merging of Travancore, Cochin and other adjoining areas. Similarly, in 1969, Madras was renamed by the DMK government as Tamil Nadu, and the state of Mysore was renamed as Karnataka. So we can see that this renaming has a long history in India. Also, in the initial years after independence, the British spellings of many cities were changed to make them more Indian. And the prominent examples are Kanpur, which was changed to Kanpur, and Jabalpur, which was changed to Jabalpur. So these kind of changes were made to the British spellings to reflect the Indian sensibilities. And then we have the second wave of renaming, which happened in the 1980s and 1990s. And in this, the effort was to reclaim of prominent cities as prevalent in local traditions and languages. And the major examples of this have been renaming of Bombay as Mumbai in 1995, renaming of Madras as Chennai in 1996, and Calcutta being renamed as Kolkata in 2001. So these name changes were done to reflect the names of the cities in the local languages. Also, what the Tamil Nadu government has done was earlier done by Karnataka government in 2014, when the central government approved renaming of 12 cities in Karnataka, and many of these changes were respelling of existing names to match the pronunciations based on local scripts. So Bangalore got changed into Bengaluru, Mangalore got changed into Mangaluru, and Mysore became Mysuru, and many other cities also had their name changed, and this was done to match the pronunciation in Kannada. And some other recent examples are the change of Mughalsarai station name to Deen Dayal Upadhyay Junction by the UP government, and the Victoria Terminus, which was built in 1887 and it is an iconic piece of architecture. Its name was changed to Chhatrapati Shivaji Terminus in 1996, and the name was further amended as Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj Terminus in 2007. The recent changes have been Allahabad to Prayagraj and Faizabad to Ayodhya, and these change of names have created a lot of controversy as well. And this is not an exclusively Indian phenomena of name changing. We have global examples. Canton was changed to Guangzhou in China. Saigon was changed to Ho Chi Minh City in Vietnam. Leningrad changed to St. Petersburg in Russia. Constantinople became Istanbul in Turkey. Stalingrad became Volgograd in Russia. And not only the names of cities but also the names of countries have been changed. So Persia became Iran after 1935, Burma became Myanmar, and Ceylon became Sri Lanka. So after having this brief background about the name change and how prevalent phenomena this is, let us look at what has been done by the Tamil Nadu government and what the editorial has to say about it. So the editorial says that over 1,000 places have been renamed in Tamil Nadu, and this happened through a notification which was issued on 10th of June by the Tamil Nadu government, and this was 2 years in making. Now for some places the names have been changed, and for other places the spellings of the name have been changed to reflect or resonate more closely with the Tamil pronunciation of the name of that place. And what reasoning has been given by the government for this drastic step? So the government says that this has been done to re-include the local or native context of names, which was ignored by the colonial administration, and that needed to be changed. And the government has also made this point that the spellings of these places had to be made to resonate with the Tamil pronunciation. And what this has done, that Vellore has become Vilur, Coimbatore has been changed to Coimbatore, and Madurai has been changed to Mathurai, and many other changes have taken place. Now the editorial says that these changes in the names and the spellings of the names of these places, it will be first of all expensive, the exercise will be laborious, and the end result will be lot of confusion, especially among the non-Tamil population which is also staying in Tamil Nadu. But the editorial also concedes this point that Tamil Nadu defines its identity primarily in linguistic terms. So this step was a foregone conclusion. The editorial says that the manner in which this change has been done by the state government is a welcome change, because it is not the outcome of any emotional pitch or mobilization against any perceived threat to the regional identity or to the linguistic pride, which has always been the case earlier whenever the issue of language has been raised, especially in Tamil Nadu, because there have been very violent agitations over imposition of Hindi in Tamil Nadu. So the editorial says that earlier such cases related to language used to take the shape of regional or linguistic chauvinism, but now it is a welcome relief that this case has been handled in a very peaceful manner and there had been no need for any kind of movement for these changes to be made. And the editorial also mentions the anti-Hindi agitations of 1930s and 1960s, where there was vociferous opposition over imposition of Hindi in the then Madras state. And these anti-Hindi agitations, they facilitated the growth of Dravidian movement, which led to the formation of Dravida Munnetra Kazhagam or DMK. And when DMK came to power, it changed the name of Madras state to Tamil Nadu. And the editorial also says that linguistic sub-regionalism has become part of the political landscape in Tamil Nadu, and this is a reality which cannot be denied. And what the state government has done resonates with the majority of the people of Tamil Nadu, though there has also been some criticism that it will lead to confusion and problems for the people, as they will need to get their identification documents changed to reflect the new names once they are notified. And this linguistic sub-regionalism has been utilized for mobilizing support by the political parties in Tamil Nadu against the centre, and also for raising concerns of Sri Lankan Tamils. So this Tamilian identity has been very strong in Tamil Nadu, and this identity derives its strength from the Tamil language, which is a classical language and which has a glorious history and past. Editorial also says that it is commendable on the part of the government in the quiet way in which this present renaming exercise has been done without any fanfare or without raising the spectre of Tamil language being under threat. So this reflects a more mature phase of linguistic subnationalism, especially in Tamil Nadu. So these are on the positive side of the name change and how the state government has handled this. But there are also some valid criticism of this move. The first one is that the spelling and the pronunciation are not first cousins in English. That is, in English language, sometimes the pronunciation of the word and the spelling of the word, they do not match. And the same is true for Tamil language as well. So there was no need for going for this kind of exercise where the spellings of the places have been changed and they have been made much more complex and complicated. And even if the idea was to make anglicized names sound closer to the root of the original Tamil names, but even then the exercise should be based on logic and convention, because otherwise it is only going to lead to confusion. And the challenges that the people of Tamil Nadu are going to face are, first of all, the confusion over the new spellings. Secondly, getting their crucial documents, especially identification documents, changed to reflect the new names. And thirdly, when the state and the whole country is facing this COVID-19 pandemic and economic slowdown, what was the need for notifying these new names at this point? So that is also a valid criticism of this move. And another thing to note here is the name Tamil Nadu itself is a anglicized name. So this was all in the key points of the editorial. Now let us look at the key concepts. So in key concepts, we look at the process of changing name of a place and which ministries are involved in it. So the state government should keep the following broad principles in view while making proposals for changing the names of any place. So the first is that unless there is some very special reason, it is not desirable to change the name of a place with which people have got used to. Secondly, the names of villages etc. having a historical connection should also not be changed as far as possible. Thirdly, a change should not be made merely on grounds of local patriotism or for linguistic reasons. For example, villages etc. should not be renamed after national leaders merely to show respect to them or for satisfying local sentiment in the matter of language. Also, in selecting new names, care should be taken to see that there is no village or town etc. of the same name in the state and neighborhood, which might lead to confusion. And while recommending any change of name, the state government should furnish detailed reasons for proposing such change in name and also for selecting the new name. So it cannot be based on the whims and fancy of the state government. There has to be proper reason and logic for such name change. And this process has to be followed for change in names of villages, towns, cities, railway stations, etc. And in the case of a change in the name of a road in a city, the municipal authority is authorized to do it. And once the proposals for renaming a town, city, village, railway station are submitted by the state government to the Ministry of Home Affairs. So Ministry of Home Affairs is the nodal ministry for this name change. It considers the proposals in consultation with other agencies, which will include the Ministry of Railways and the Department of Telecommunication, the Department of Post as well, which are the major stakeholders in any name change of a place. So once their consent is received and the Ministry of Home Affairs is also in agreement, then they give their approval to the state government, and the state government, after receiving the approval, issues a gazette notification to reflect the name change. So this is how the name of a place is changed. And the renaming of states, this is very important. So it deals with Article 3, which provides for formation of new states and alteration of areas, boundaries or names of existing states. So the procedure of renaming the state can be initiated by either the parliament or the state legislative assembly. A bill for renaming a state may be introduced in the parliament on the recommendation of the president. Before introducing of the bill, the president has to send the bill to the respective state assembly for expressing their views within a stipulated time. But the views of the state assembly are neither binding on the president nor on the parliament. And once the stipulated time is over, the bill will be sent to the parliament for deliberation. It needs to be passed by a simple majority. And once passed, the bill is sent for approval to the president. And the bill becomes a law after approval, and the name of the state stands modified after that. So this is very important, that Article 3 needs to be amended for this. So Article 3 is involved in this, and a constitutional amendment bill needs to be passed for changing the name of a state, and it is passed by a simple majority. So these are the important things on which a question can be asked in prelims as well. So this was all in today's editorial analysis. Now let us look at the kind of questions which can be asked. So in prelims, you can be asked about the old names and the new names of the places. So these kind of questions can be asked. Then the process of name change of cities, which are the ministries involved, which are the other bodies which are involved. So questions can be asked on that. And if the name of a state has to be changed, then how it is done. So a constitutional amendment bill is needed for that. And Article 3 is the concerned article of the constitution for changing the name of a state. And in recent times, West Bengal has been trying to change its name to Bangla. So these are the kind of factual questions that can be asked in prelims, mainly in polity. While in mains, the questions that can be asked can be about linguistic states and their impact on national unity, whether having linguistic states has strengthened India's unity or national integration, or it has weakened the national integration. So this kind of question can be asked, and it was actually asked in 2016. So one should be prepared on this and should have points on both sides. How linguistic states have strengthened India's national unity, and how at times it has led to weakening of the national unity. Then questions can be asked on regionalism as well and subnationalism. Then also about renaming of places, their pros and cons, why it should be done, why it should not be done. So these are the kind of questions that you should be prepared on. So this was all in today's editorial analysis. We'll see you next time with another editorial. Thank you.